Everybody, hold on. We're going to Lake Arcadia. Ace, can you see this on your screen?
Yep.
Is this where you were?
It didn't look that. I mean, the trees, yes. So click on a
Chase,
few
this looks so
photos.
nice.
Yeah, that's
Man,
it.
government websites are terrible. Dear baby Jesus. You're at Lake Arcadia. So
Hmm.
you don't have any actual lakes in Oklahoma?
I don't know for certain, but like someone told me that a native here, someone told me that all the lakes
This
in
looks so nice.
Oklahoma, they're all man-made apparently. So
Damn, was this
like,
far for you? Don't you live down here?
yeah, it's like a 30-minute drive. It's not like I'm okay to driving that much. So like
It's
if
just
you
more
you
lakes than I
freeze
assumed.
right here, so like you see on the top, yeah, where your cursor is right there, that's Lake Hefner. That's where it's
Sick.
all just like sailboats and shit. So
Nice.
there's not really I don't think they're allowed to have motorized boats on there, but yeah,
Is it
it's
a
a
bunch
bunch
of
of
old
sailboats there.
guys doing sailboats on
Oh,
Lake
dude,
Hefner?
yeah, we have a member who's like big time a sailor. It's cool. I mean, the way he describes it, man, it's like, man, I want to go do that shit, but it just costs a lot of money and shit.
Nice, man. Yeah, you got to get in the sailing game and then be like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a sailor from Oklahoma. Okay, all
exactly.
right. I got to get back to the thing. I got to get back to the thing here. All right, we're back. Got to go to chat. Hello, nerds. Hello, G-Lock. How's it going, dude? Thank you for joining us for the later stream. Ernest, hola. How's it going, Ernest? I think Ernest is in Missouri, Mississippi, something to that
Missouri
effect.
Sippy.
He's in one of the M states.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, my goal for
Not
anybody that
Montana or anything
it
like
could
that.
be Montana. The goal for any of the chat people is just try to dox them the best I can.
Mm.
Just be like, this is this person's favorite color and social security number. Um, yeah, so I've been having everyone. First of all, welcome to the weekly, bi-weekly, possibly monthly Strength Club Q&A. We're
Hmm.
two starting strength coaches below me, Chase, right here.
Yep, that's me. So I'm Chase Lindley. I've been a starting strength coach. What has it been, like 3 years now?
I guess 3 years. Yeah, man. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you've been doing this for 3 years in one day, and I've been doing it for 3 years exactly.
Yep. So I have just a little bit more experience, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, he's
But no,
getting paid
I'm
the big bucks.
yeah, yeah. So I'm originally from Wichita Falls. I've been underneath the man himself, Mark Ripito, for a while now, and I know all the craziness that he likes to spill, and all the a little bit of some of the wisdom too. So
And you're working out of Oklahoma City, and you're growing your hair very long.
that's correct. Yeah. So here in Oklahoma, they don't have like good fucking barbers or anyone who can cut hair. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna grow out my hair,
Just
and
growing it
this
out.
is this has literally been the longest that it's been
All
ever
of
in my
my
life.
friends who don't have to cut their hair for their job, like if they're in the military, every single one of them is growing their hair out.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It could be that I just have very few friends, or it could be that all of them are growing their hair out. It could be one of the two.
Yeah.
We're not entirely sure. Yeah, I can't do long hair. It just kind of grows outwards, almost in a bush.
Well,
It
yeah.
just
Does yours get like curly and shit like that, like a sheep's
no, I
wool
don't. I don't
almost?
have the. I don't get the zoomer cut. I just get kind
Okay.
of like if you ever see like a Chinese guy with like 3 inch hair, but it's just like straight.
I think so. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what ends up happening to me. It just kind of looks like a poof ball, not like an
Mm.
afro, but
So you almost have like the Vegeta haircut from like Dragon Ball Z almost.
I got a widow's peak. I think I
If
could.
yeah, if he had like a really bad widow's peak.
Yeah. Hopefully that's how. If I do go bald, I go bald in the widow's peak pattern. Um, but yes, you have a new gym open. It's in Moore.
That is correct. No, it's in Quail Springs. So basically, the area in between like downtown OKC and then Edmond. So it's for the people that are kind of in that area or know about OKC, it's called the Quail Springs area, right by like the Quail Springs Mall. But we just kind of identify it as like the Edmond area because it's
What
so
is
close
the
to Edmond.
what's kind of the vibe of Oklahoma City? Is it a younger
It
town? Is it an
is.
older town?
It
Is it
depends on
sort
the
of is it
part.
getting
So,
hipstery?
well,
Is it
yeah,
getting
if you go
gentrified?
downtown, you're gonna have like some gentrification going on and all that bullshit. But
Okay.
there's certain spots to each city. So like in this one that I'm at currently in Moore, it's its own city, but it's basically like a suburb of OKC. It's just a bunch of like old, boomers and shit like that, and like a huge OU fan, stuff like that, and Norman
Okay.
area too. So Norman is where the OU campus is. Just a bunch of
Okay.
really rich white people down here,
Okay.
right?
That's
And then in Moore, it's just
slam
it's
dunk target
yeah,
demo for starting
exactly.
strength.
Um, but like in more, it's more of like a tight community and stuff like that, where It has like a small town feel, even though like we're in a huge sprawling city.
That's good. Okay.
And then as you go north, it's more of like okay, like I see now more fancier cars, a lot more real estate, shit like that.
Right. Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, I think that. So I just found out about some towns that are. I'm in Fayetteville, really close to Fort
Hmm.
Bragg. I found out about the other towns, kind of the periphery towns where everybody actually lives. Nobody really
Yeah.
lives in Fayetteville, or at least people who are with my wife's work. So we've been going to these other towns for like recreation, and they're super
Hmm.
nice. It's crazy. It's just
Yeah.
it is an absolute night and day difference between the two, and it's like just a 30-minute drive.
Yeah. Dude, huge metropolises just fucking suck ass. Like, yeah, there's like some cool like little gyms here and there, but like, dude, you just get a shit ton of people that just
Hmm.
have different varying degrees of like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that,
Yeah.
and it just comes to a blend of just bullshit.
It is a blend of bullshit. G
Yeah.
Lock said it is now Fort Liberty. It's Fort Liberty.
Oh, they renamed it?
They did rename it, yes, because Bragg is a bad guy. That's why he has B in his name for bad guy. That's the G's is
Mm.
bad guy. Um, yeah. Oh, Chase, you'll probably find this funny. Some of the police cars they've changed their name for it, so like Fort Bragg Police now it says Fort Liberty Police, so it looks
Hmm.
like it's saying they're the Liberty Police. So it's like we're going to take
Or
your liberty
Liberty.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're coming to incarcerate you. Okay, yeah. So the prompt for this one, it's about determining progress in the gym. It's actually something that is not immediately intuitive, especially once you've been in the game for many years. And we touched upon this last time about managing fatigue and managing recovery. And then this question kind of naturally comes out of this, and I had to talk to a bunch of my clients about this week. Anyhow, so we're going over it here. Yeah, the secret to this show is that half the time it's questions that my clients are asking me, and I'm like, I'm just going to do a show on this, and I'll be like, watch the show. Yeah, you can hear Chase and I talk about this for an hour. This is the late night edition. Chase, do you want to start doing this later? Do you want to start doing this at
I don't know. I
9:30?
mean, I want to get the people's opinion on this because I mean, right
Yeah.
now, like our chat right now is really dead, man. Usually we would have like a few more people,
See, but here's the
like
thing. Normally, everybody comes in after we've been on for like
that's
45
true. Yeah.
minutes, and then we have a bunch of people popping right at the end. So maybe we just need to. I can just start the stream for an hour and just play video games, and then the second hour, when people come in, can be
Yeah.
can be the actual stuff. Determining progress in the gym. Chase, how long have you been lifting for? 13, 14 years, something like that?
Oh, since I was 12, so man, at least 14.
13, 14 years? Okay, I've been lifting for, I guess, yeah, 10 years.
Hmm.
Basically 10 years at this point. If you were to like take the sum of our lifts, or like relative working triple, relative working five, and let's just say if you took a sample of that over the past 12 months at random different times, and you were to divide that by 14 years, 13 years, and then 10 years, it would look like everyone's making tremendously slow progress, or it would
Yeah.
look like the progress is like really, really weird. But like for most people, they'll get 70% of the progress they'll really ever get in their lifetime in the first year of lifting, and then after that it's fighting for the last 30%. Kind of the graph that we have, it's on the front of Practical Programming. It's in
Hmm.
the actual starting strength textbook. It's just a logarithmic curve, horizontal asymptote up top. So it's like all the progress is coming in real fast, and then you're just fighting for those little gains, and then all of those gains right at the end are just forearms and shoulders. Really, that's all
Hmm.
you're that's basically all you're looking for at the end. So we're going to talk about when you are in that sort of late intermediate, you're in this advanced stage, you're just kind of in the great wide open. Um, how you actually sort of conceptualize your progress when it's not so straightforward. Let's go back to here. Oh yeah. Chase, have you posted anything on your Instagram at all since your
No, man.
deload?
So to kind of give you a story about that, so the landlord got pissed off at me again
For
for
Olympic
lifting.
weightlifting?
Yeah, so it's actually his wife, turns out. So it's not like
It's the nail salon still.
exactly, but it's not the nail salon people. Like the owners are cool, the staff is cool, no one
Right.
gives a fuck.
Right.
But it's the landlord's wife who comes in at like the typical time that I like to train at.
Mm-hmm.
She's making a big ruckus of things. So I have been lifting earlier in the mornings, and
Okay.
I've just been kind of like laying on the low with trying to train. Like I'm still training heavy and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, but it's masked with the time of a class. So it just sounds like we just have like a bunch of fucking strong people in the
You're
gym
like,
at
hey,
that
we're just
time.
busy as shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're just slamming weights, man.
Okay.
So we've been kind of.
Is she going into like her own office, or is she going into the nail place, or where is she going
No,
into?
she's going into the nail salon. So
Okay,
she like
you gotta
randomly.
make friends with the nail people and be
Oh, we
like,
tried to. So
text me if she's there.
well, we were trying to ask like what kind of car she drives and stuff like that, but
Right.
they didn't disclose that
You got to
information.
get
But
your intel game up, man.
I know, like I
You got
already
to
have like
start
a
stalking
description of
this
what she
lady.
looks like and shit like that. Yeah, I'm just like I need to like just send like a like an Apple AirTag on her car and just to notify me if it's too close or
That's
some
a
shit
good
like that.
idea. Yeah, or maybe
Yeah,
just go to the nail salon and then just bang some pots of paint. Whoever gets the most scared, it's probably her. She
yeah,
just has
probably will
a
do.
dog-like fear of loud noises.
Probably.
This is how you get videos on the show. I didn't check the video pool last week. We had like 7 or 8 videos. Email them to support@strength.club. We'll go over your videos. We're going to go over a bunch today. Um, so the big thing about establishing progress is you need to understand what progress is, because progress is a little bit different for everybody. If I'm working with a BJJ athlete or working with a judo guy, their version of progress is not really going to be related or tied to the barbell at all. Their superordinate goal or their structure of the goal just by itself is going to be better at my sport, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the ones say when we have Meredith come in, she's coming into Oklahoma, she's 54, her son is a starting strength head, she wants to lift. What is her goal, Chase?
It's just to get stronger without getting fucked up.
Yes, yeah. It's like more function, live life,
Yeah.
kind of be better at moving around.
More independent stuff like that. Yeah, without injury. Just basically not looking like the surrounding people that she's interacting with on a daily basis. So like if her friends are using walkers, she wants to be the outlier of not use a walker.
Man, I can't wait to be stunning on other old guys who are just dropping like
Just be
flies
like,
around
oh,
me.
you can't hop off this curb. Sorry, watch me.
Watch me do sick elderly parkour. Um, and then Chase's goal is, just to be 270 pounds, deadlift of 800 pounds, just be jacked
Exactly.
as shit. So like the spectrum, it's really all over the place.
Hmm.
If I had to put myself somewhere, it's just kind of do my sports at the highest level that I can. So it's like if I get the opportunity to train with like some really good guys for a week, and that means I have to take a week off lifting, I'm 100% okay with it. If we told Chase you need to take a week off lifting, he would pull a gun out immediately.
Yeah, I'd flip out.
Like absolutely not.
Yeah.
um, so the wind conditions are a little bit different for everybody. Now when I say wind conditions for someone just like in Chase's position, it's going to be get stronger and get more jacked. For someone like Meredith that we pulled up in our example before, that may be like less joint pain. She may have a bad knee and she's like, hey, my knees feel like shit, I'm trying to get my knees to feel better, or I want to be able to pick up my grandkids or something to that effect. So our win conditions or our goals are going to greatly inform all of our programming, because it's like we have our win conditions and our goals, and we need to figure out how those goals are facilitated. And the win conditions come out of facilitating those goals, right? Because the win condition, it's not just like, all right, I've become jacked and I'm done training and I don't need to do anything else now forever. That's not how that works. It's more like my goal is to get jacked, and then my win condition is each week I want to see an extra rep on an accessory movement. I want to see bar speed moving a little bit faster. I want to see extra weight on the bar, things like that. So the Chase, I'm curious for your opinion on this one. So like, let's say someone who's in these B or C category, they want less joint pain, they want more function, they kind of want to live their life.
Hmm.
How are you? Let's say kind of goal setting for them on like a very short basis, and what do you think they actually care about and appreciate?
I mean, it's hard because like they see more of like their wins outside of the gym. So like for
Okay.
example, like um if like they're struggling with groceries, taking them in and out of the car and then take several trips.
Mm-hmm.
Now this dog food bag that they have always dread picking up and then putting into the car, it's becoming a little bit easier. All this stuff is kind of like little wins that kind of amount over time. And then at some point, like, hey, we put the idea of like, hey, let's start pushing for almost like a more sporty type direction of like, hey, we're gonna really start pushing your squat, or we're gonna really start
Right.
focusing on the press. Where we have little events in the gym to where we have like, hey, we have our deadlift day on day of the deadlift. Let's start prepping for that, because like those people kind of get into that routine of just like, oh, I'm fine just coming in and out of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to just, or they are used to just doing whatever the least amount of work possible and not really seeing anything, because that's what a lot of other shit out there has kind of been
Right.
programmed
Yeah,
for.
they're some people, and it's crazy to think about. It's such kind of it's a foreign theory of mind to think I can
Hmm.
just lift the same weight forever and I'll be fine. They'll be like, oh,
Exactly.
I'm strong enough. Like Chase will never be strong enough.
No.
You know what I mean? But some people that's just how they think. So that's very interesting. So you think almost in the beginning they see most of their wins and their progress outside of the gym in their life when they kind of notice things are easier.
I would say so, yeah. Because
Okay,
like
and
here it's
then
well, I mean, because let's think of it. So that same example of like Meredith coming to the gym. So she's coming to the class of like, let's say, four other people, and those four other people are either way other end of the spectrum or someone kind of like her. So the other end of the spectrum, we have a dude in his early 20s. He's over there just pushing a bunch of fucking weight. She knows that she cannot compare herself to him. So
mhm,
that's out of it. But then she sees, Beth over here, who is maybe a little bit younger, as a mom and stuff like that. She kind of works with it.
40s. Yeah.
Exactly. So standard typical female that we kind of see at our gyms, she can now be like, okay, well, I can somewhat pit myself against Beth in terms of like if I really wanted to be competitive, I got to be, just strong like her. Beth right now is like squatting,
Like a role
115.
model.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the same thing is like as we get again into like a realm of like more of like the Meredith style where it's someone her same age, somewhere with the same hobbies and interests. It's just like, hey, I want to be on the same par as her. Like I want to be
Mhm.
accountable as long as we're both working together and I can see that she's lagging. Well, then I got to pick her back up, and it's vice versa. So I'm held accountable by a person who is similar like me in the class.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think for, a lot of these people sometimes they'll even notice things like racking a 45-pound plate. I mean, like
Hmm.
my wife even she's of course contemporary age with me, like a 45-pound plate to like chest height for a squat could not do.
Yeah.
That's like it's like a big task, and then when that happens it's like, oh cool, this is like it's like an increase in function.
Hmm.
And then that could be getting a 25-pound plate off the tree, that can be getting a 45-pound plate off the lowest limb of the plate tree. All of those things, we have to kind of pull our brains out or pull our perspective out to kind of really empathize with these positions. And then that's when we think, how do we facilitate these goals? Because their goals may end up being like increased function, and then we just don't even think about function. I don't know the last time I've
Yeah.
ever thought about my body's
I haven't
function
either.
in a non-sports manner.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so it takes a while to kind of figure those things out. Um, Right. So just to recap on this, we have goals, and then to facilitate those goals, that's where we set our win conditions.
Hmm.
The win conditions are kind of things that we see very locally, and then the overall goals are things that are seen very globally and over a very long timeline. Um, okay, I'm going to move this to this side, Chase. Wait, no, that's the big one. You don't want to be the big head. Okay, so how is progress seen? Um, when we're gauging criteria here, or excuse me, when we're gauging our progress, it relies on like I don't want to say like it's not super technical. It's very easy to understand, but it needs to be pretty specific. You need to have a criteria that you can actually measure things on. You need to be successful within that criteria. That success needs to be able to repeat itself. Okay, and then that repetition needs to be able to sustain itself, right?
Hmm.
So let's say like a bench set 225 for 5, it's week 1, and then the second week it's 225 for 6, and then the third week it's 225 for like 2, right? The criteria is still stable. It's max reps with 225, and we had success on it for the first 2 weeks, right? So technically it was repeatable for 2 weeks, but it wasn't sustainable because it was either way too much work and I got into a big fatigue hole and I crashed, or I got rapidly detrained because the programming was shitty elsewhere, but it wasn't sustainable, right? So we kind of need all of these things at the same time, basically.
Hmm.
Like if you're failing on any one of these, the whole thing kind of goes out the window. For lifting, I would say the most technical way we can think about it is just, muscles, they do all of their adaptations through mechanical tension. Mechanical tension is going to be seen by, external resistance, and that's going to be, weight, a machine, a chin up, whatever it is, some sort of external resistance. And then you're doing that for some amount of repetitions, some amount of volume, and then resistance, we can increase that just with weight. Um, Now, when we say that we have these sort of like three relevant factors, weight, i.e., external resistance, reps, and volume, do all of these need to increase at the same time? What are your thoughts on that, Chase? So, like, only some of them need to
Um,
increase?
I wouldn't say like all of them need to increase it. It really just kind of depends on the individual, right? So, if someone is coming in and they're wanting to now be better for their sport, they want to be stronger. All those criteria that you're listing about, like the volume, the frequency, just basically all of the progressive overload that we typically see in the novice linear program, and then a little bit beyond, they can handle that. But if you get someone who's like severely detrained, when they come in, now our overload may be a little bit of like a finer tune, or a little bit of a single thread of like, okay, now it's range of motion. We're
Hmm.
not worried about intensity. We're not worried about frequency. We're not worried about the weight on the bar yet. It's just, can you get the full range of motion? And that's going to be the stressor. And then as we get more range of motion, we're going to start implementing more threads to where now we have this nice rug of an individual who's super strong and sturdy.
Nice. Yes, yeah. So whenever we kick it back to our goals, this is kind of when it helps us inform what actually needs to increase. So we kind of understand how we're going to see progress, and then we need to think about what it is literally. I think the chin up is a really good example for this. Because it's not something that it's like, okay, you do your chin up with, 180-pound Alex, and then the next week you need to weigh 185 pounds, and the next week you weigh 190 pounds, and so on and so forth. So for a lot of people, the chin up is the first thing they actually have to think about, or the lat pull down, same thing. With a rep scheme progression as opposed to just weight. So pretend these are chin up workouts, and let's say the person is just doing them on like Monday and Thursday. So they have a pretty even recovery split in between all of them. So first one, they're going 875, second one, they're going 877. This is still progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
They filled in reps on the back end. Even if you don't increase on the top end, filling in on the back end is still progression. So this, even though he didn't get 9, it was still a success. He went to 887, same thing. These 8s are like right at failure, and he can kind of tell, hey, there's no fucking way I'm going to be able to get 9, right? So he went from 16, 23 session reps here, and he's like, okay, I'm going to add 2 sets, but I'm going to keep them all much easier. And then instead of doing super grindy 8, super easy, or like kind of a decently hard 7, he went to a 4x7, and then he did 1 set out to failure, and he got 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then he's at 28. He's at 33 session reps, up from 23. So he added about 10 session reps, took a nice long break, came back to it, and then he could finally hit that 9th rep, right? So in the beginning of your chin up progression, and I think people have to do this even when they're doing 3 reps and 4 reps and so on, it's very hard after a certain period just to add a rep to the top set.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy difficult. In that case, you would see people who've been doing chin ups for years, doing like sets of 30 or 40 chins. It just doesn't happen. So this is sort of what like a rep scheme progression can look like. Any thoughts on this? Any thoughts about how you manage rep scheme progressions for people like this?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Is that, I mean, yes, like the first 3 weeks or sessions, like you are gaining the stress with just the total amount of work that's being done. But at the same time, like I wouldn't really say intensity, but the exposure to that first set really hasn't been changing. So it's almost like you're not getting enough stress. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes sense of like the weeks beyond that.
Yeah, it's like, if we consider weeks or sessions 1, 2, and 3, all of these to failure, and then basically we're seeing, okay, this guy, and this is very typical for chins to kind of hit a hard wall on reps.
Hmm.
Um, is like, all right, these first 3 sessions, every single one of these is to failure, and he think, if he takes, let's say a 7-8 minute rest here, he may be able to get an 8th rep there. You know, um, Question from Ernest: how does body weight changes play into that? Body weight stuff is more difficult to track because it's less objective, isn't it? Um, Most people have pretty stable body weights, I would say.
Yeah, like it's going to be maybe fluctuating from like maybe like a fat 5 pound range, depending on like water weight and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're training at the same day, eating roughly the same shit,
Yeah.
and doing the same amount of like liquid intake before, you're going to be about the same body weight.
If you're losing 1.5 pounds a week, that's like a lot of fat loss.
Yeah.
That's a pretty decent amount of body weight loss, and it's just 1.5 pounds. Like if you
Hmm.
wore different shoes on day to day, that's probably almost more impactful than fat loss is. And then if you're coming in one day and you weigh 190, and then later in the week you weigh 196, there's something wrong.
Hmm.
maybe you shouldn't gain 6 pounds or be 6 pounds heavier in a series of 4 days. But yeah, so back to this, we have the first 3 sessions basically being at failure, and then session 4 accomplishes a few things. It accomplishes, it not accomplishes, but it's doing 2 things for you. It's giving you more volume, and that more volume is farther away from failure. In reality, maybe the 4th set of 7 was a true death grinder as much as these sets of 8 were before. Like 1 rep on the chin up makes a lot of difference, right? So he's getting more work in farther away from failure, right? So it's a little bit less stressful, but it's also a little bit more work. So it kind of comes out in the wash. And then after that, then he can move up to 9. Meant for chins and dips. Yeah, I mean, I would say unless you're dealing with someone who's very overweight and they're losing a significant amount of weight, I can see how that would be an issue. Like if someone loses 50 pounds. But like if someone has the capacity to lose that much weight, they probably can't do chins or dips in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of already something to do when someone's more in shape and lighter. Anything else, Chase?
No, that's right. I mean, I think like you're almost thinking about it too hard with it. I mean, unless like you are, doing some extreme drastic weight loss or even weight gain, will you see kind of like this kind of take an effect? But generally, everyone's fine.
And I mean, yeah, if you're gaining a dramatic amount of weight, that means you're certainly putting on. If the only people who gain
Yeah,
a dramatic amount of weight are small men,
yeah,
and if you're a small
it's
guy,
yeah.
you're going from a small guy to a medium guy, and you're still going to be able to do do
Mm-hmm,
chins. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's very rare. Like if I went from 185 to Chase, where are you at right now?
I'm about like 247, 250.
Okay, so if I went up from 185 to 250, that would take
Hmm.
me, if I really put my heart to it, 2 years, 2.5, maybe longer than that.
Yeah,
Realistic. Actually, fucking hell, that'd be crazy fast in 2 years. That'd take more like 4 years to do.
it'd take a
Um,
while. It would take a
yeah,
while.
I'll try, Chase. Don't
So
worry,
I'm
buddy.
waiting.
One of these
I'll be
days.
here waiting on you.
Oh man, I went to a new jujitsu gym. I found a new gym in this area. I met a guy. He weighs about 260, 265. He's about
Yeah.
5'3", 5'4".
Oh yeah.
Yeah, neck,
Big old
absolutely
boy.
no neck whatsoever. His calves just looked like just fucking
Yeah.
crazy bulbous calves. Um, Nobody else does, Ernest. Nobody else does. I was just talking about this with my wife. Actually, she preferred me the best when I fought at 73 kilos. So when I was like a
Dude.
shredded 73,
Yeah.
and I was like too tiny,
That's way too small, man.
way too tiny. Um, but yeah, no, this guy, he was saying I was like, dude, you're jacked as hell. What's going on? And he was like, yeah, I just love bodybuilding since I've been a kid. And I was like, do you bench at all? And he was like, I can't bench anymore because the bar path is too short. That's what he said. His arms are so small.
Jeez.
He was like, I don't get anything out of the bench anymore because my chest is so massive and my arms are so small.
Dude.
So he inclined dumbbell benches. He inclined dumbbells the 150s. And I was
Oh
like,
my god.
what
He's
what
like a
an
mini juggernaut or some shit.
absolute legend.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
awesome.
I saw him coming in the room, and I was like, that guy, fucking, and it's just a unit.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you talk to him because he's incredibly threatening, and he's like here when
Yeah.
when you're standing next to him. He's down here, and you're like, fuck, don't kill me. Okay, yeah. So back to rep progressions and rep schemes here. This is an example of some of the finicking or finagling that you'll have to do with certain movements. Now, it gets more complicated when we have a weight on the bar or an external resistance, and it gets doubly complicated whenever we have both things to play with. We have both weight to play with, and we have both reps to play with. We'll have an example of that right after this. Anything else on these, Chase?
No, that I think that covers it.
Okay, so we're going to this guy. Is this visible for you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, amazing. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can change this on my screen now. Perfect. Okay, so this is a 3-week cycle. This is just the upper body pushing or pressing movements here. We're not going to talk about squatting or deadlifting or anything else. This is just a kind of a one lift track progression example. This is someone they've been lifting for a few years. Their bench PR is 255. They're trying to get 255 for a triple. And then at the beginning of this, they try and they get 255 for a double, and it's like the hardest double they've ever done in their life. Chase, did you look over this? Do you kind of have a read of what's going on yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Before I poison the well and tell you what my thoughts are here, what do you think about this?
So like right now, like we are carrying stress pretty high. So like if you look at it, so the first day you're grinding through that 225, you have your baseline reading of okay, fuck, I only got 2 reps at 255. You're dropping it down at a pretty relatively high percentage back off of 255, because we need that because it's the bench and you can't take too much off of it. Now we got 240 for a triple, and then we go back into the next one where now we're implementing more volume, but with a tiny bit more of a load. It's not too much of a drastic change in the terms of the weight on the bar, but it is in terms of total work done with a 3x3. And then what, you got a close grip. So now we've changed a little bit there with some more variables, and then we're going back into kind of something similar to what we did on week 2 on the first workout, with still hitting the volume pretty high. Um, Still 1 rep less, but the same amount of weight, to where we are now hitting an easy triple at 255.
Okay, yeah, great
Okay.
outline. Um, yeah, the way that I like to think about programming in weeks is what the relative kind of curve of stress is and what I expect. And sometimes I'll put these in people's sheets as well so I can communicate this to them. If the stress is going to be really flat across and I expect fucking everything to be hard or moderate or whatever that flat stress is, if the week is going to be really front loaded, as in like the beginning of this week is going to be hellish, and then it's going to get, it's going to get easier across the sessions. And then if it's going to be something like a hard taper, so let's say this 225 or just 255 target for a triple is like crazy hard. There's no way he's going to move. There are amateurish things you can do, and then or you can kind of extend the timeline. The amateurish thing to do would be just to try to repeat the workout. So like let's say this doesn't move on uh, workout 1 of week 1, and then it's your second bench workout and it's workout 3, and you're like, I'm going to try it again. Have you done any benching in between now and then? It's been Monday to Friday. You haven't done any benching in between then. If anything, you're just carrying more stress because you have the stress from workouts 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? So repeating the workout doesn't work. And then if I go back to this, we need to think about number 4. It needs to be sustainable or protracted success, right? It can't just be success and then I just try it again and it doesn't work, right? Because that's how people kind of hit brick walls and they crash their programming. So we say, all right, the next time I hit 255, I want it to be easy. So I'm going to try to hit it again in 3 weeks. And then instead of doing it really in 2 weeks, if I did it on workout 1, I'm going to try to do it on a workout 3. So we're putting now 2, 4, 6 sort of upper body workouts in between those, and then one basically sort of rest session to try to hit 255 again. So these are some of the cards that you can start playing with here. And then in terms of variables, so it's like, let's say if we look at week 3 for workout 1, we have a bench and it's going to be a 4 sets of 2 at 245. Those should be pretty fast. Those should be pretty
Mm-hmm.
fast. The third and fourth double are going to be slow. The fourth double is probably going to be really grindy, but they'll still be able to move. Um, if I were to have benched heavy, let's say on workout 3, right before this,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been too fatigued to do this, right? So we have
Mm-hmm.
a week of flat stress, then we have a front-loaded week where it's getting less stressful across, and then that allows this person, which is me, to be set up for 245 here. So this is my programming, by the way, that I did for myself to get over this PR. I just pulled this out of my logbook. Okay. Um, so when I think about this, kind of like what I need to do here, we're saying what are my sort of win criteria. I need to make sure that I'm doing a sufficient amount of bench work. I'm increasing weight, I'm increasing reps as compared to before, and I know these things are kind of working is because all of these targets, like this pause bench, the close grip, the press, all that sort of stuff, it's heavier than it was, let's say, last cycle or 2 cycles ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. um, so if you were to try to attempt to repeat week 1, it would just crash and burn. It would be a terrible crashing and burning. This is kind of where it needs to ebb and flow with the stress here. And then this is one cycle that it seems to be very successful with people in terms of waiving stress is you give them a week of very flat stress, then you give them kind of a spike of stress, and then you let it cool down, a little spike again, and then you let it cool down again. And then that's when you aim for your PR. And then that point, fatigue is pretty dissipated. Can you see all the finer figures here, Chase, with like what loads are actually on your screen?
Yeah, so like I didn't even mention earlier about like the back off stuff you're talking about, like so like the 1x5 at 225 or stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
press, you're getting what is this reps for like the 6, 5, 4?
Yeah, those are reps on like close grip and
Gotcha.
press.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you had to look at this, which one of these would you say is actually the hardest or the largest workout? So we have workout one. This is the fuck up workout right here.
Yep.
This didn't work. Okay. In between these 2, 4, 6 workouts, which one of these would you say is the highest stress?
Man, I would have to say the week one almost because of just
Okay.
how much you're doing on the bench. If just in terms of like just the total bench stress. So we have one session, two, actually three bench sessions compared to on week two, we just have one and two.
Mm-hmm.
And then on week three, we just have two. But also, you have to take into account the upper body stress from the press,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, which is a higher load and more volume on the workout number two for week one. So, yeah, I would say that the total amount of stress out of these 3 weeks, number one is the most.
Okay, yeah, spot on. So generally, what happens is that whenever programming quote fails, and then we say that if one of these four things fail, if I change the criteria, that's a failure. If I'm not succeeding with my criteria, that's a failure. The
Hmm.
success isn't repeating, as in I fail a PR, that's the failure. Or if I'm not setting myself up for next week, that's another failure. Okay, so all of those things, that's kind of what goes into it. When we look at this week one, this normally is probably pretty okay for me. It may have been a few hard practices. It may have been sleep. May have been on a road trip. Whatever it was. I think this was actually this was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. So this was probably whenever I was moving. Um, this is where that sort of failure happened within the programming. So the adjustments that we make, if we can kind of compare the workouts up and down from week one to week two. Um, let's workout two with our press. It went from kind of a hardish 5x3 down to volume work uh, at 135, and then the session reps are about the same, but
Hmm.
there's a shorter set count and the load is lighter. So this allows for more recovery. And then we'll notice we're going from 5 sets on week one, workout three, down to 3 sets. And I'm also pulling the weight down, right? It still feels like I'm trying really hard because I'm taking it somewhat close to failure.
Hmm.
But as compared to the week prior, that stress is pulling down. And then the closest one when it comes to the proxy of stress is going to be workout one. Workout one, we're having, a super hard double that was meant to be a triple into a 4x5 back off, right? So that's 5 hard sets, whereas in week two, it's 4 hard sets. And those triples, those were all super close to failure. And then in week three, it's like the global stress reduction it's really quite high. We're taking out the press in the midweek. We're still keeping 4 hard sets. So if we look at workout one on week two and week three, it's still 4 hard sets, right?
Hmm.
But we're pulling the weight down we're pulling the reps down dramatically, right? Um, so instead of what is this 9? Instead of 14 reps in week two, we're going to 8 reps in week three, right? And then that sort of reduction in stress allows the bench to kind of flourish or flower or to mature into workout three to get this PR, right? Um, so this sort of thing, this is kind of what actual programming looks like for most people once they're kind of into their senior years. Okay, where it's like a PR cycle is going to take 3 years, and it's going to be a local PR. It's like at different times and different years, you may have been stronger, you may have been bigger, you may have been smaller, things like that. Um, anything else you want to touch on here about kind of what programming looks like?
No, I mean, it does kind of get confusing with all this stuff, but if you kind of just look at it like of just like plotting it in terms of like on a line graph or on a line graph or like even like scatter plots, like all the stress is here at the top, and then now he's just slowly kind of doing this, and then he's peaking again. So it's like almost just like a little bit of a ski slope or a ramp at the end of it. Um, that's kind of going to be an easier picture to paint in most people's brains because like whenever you look at this, it's like, God damn, man, he just did
Mm-hmm.
all this random work, but I still don't understand like how he was able to triple. But again, if you kind of look at all through that, you're diminishing stress and also applying it where it needs to be throughout these 3 weeks.
That's a really good analogy. Yes. So I think I may actually do that. We'll put that in for next one. Like, let's say even if we just do session reps with some sort
Hmm.
of like a coefficient of session reps and then average load. And then if we were to put it, like horizontal axis is days. So day or workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the vertical axis is just the sort of stress. It's
Hmm.
like, it's really high. And then you're just kind of creating these little jumps for yourselves. And then it's a ski
Yep.
jump. And then you're making a little jump right at the bottom. And then that's where that PR lives, is right off the
Hmm.
jump. Yeah, that's a great way to think about that. Um, yeah, and then one thing Chase said that was that I really really liked outside of the ski jump thing is that when you look at this, it always looks confusing. When I get
Always. Yeah.
athletes who come in to me randomly, I'm like, hey, send me the last 6 weeks of your programming, send me the last 12 weeks of your programming. I look at it and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yep.
100% of the time.
Yep. Dude, that's why I don't even ask anymore. I'm just like, all right,
Yeah,
just like I'll still ask, but I won't
right.
look at it because it's like
Yeah.
you clearly fucked everything up to God knows how high. So we're gonna scrub this clean and we're gonna restart.
It's always something where it's like it's a very individual creation, and it's like when it's funny because if it's someone who comes in, they've only been lifting for let's say 4 or 5 months or so, and they're looking for coaching, and then their sort of homebrew programming looks very different than someone who's been lifting for 10 years, what their homebrew programming looks like.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to just like jump in randomly, it's oftentimes very confusing, but then you need to, do what Chase did and then say, all right, I'm just going to kind of interpret this as stress application. And I'm going to think about where the stress is being applied, where the recovery is being allowed for. And then it makes sense, you
Yeah.
know, and that's basically what we're doing. Um, okay. What do we have on this slide? Yeah. Establishing your win conditions. Chase, whenever you think about what you're doing in your training, are
Mhm.
you kind of are you orbiting everything around the Olympic lifts right now? Or are you kind of thinking more broadly at all?
No, more so the Olympic lifts.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so for everybody, they have their individual stuff, So for Chase, it's the Olympic lifts, and it's like
Hmm.
it's not. Is your goal? Would you say just better technical proficiency? Is it? It's a higher peak strength on competition day. If you had to really be specific, Chase, what would you say it is?
I mean, more specific would be, am I better than the last meet that I did? Whether that could be the technical aspect, but more so I'm looking towards like, am I posting a
Hmm.
higher total? Is my snatch gonna beat my last snatch? Is
Right.
my clean and jerk gonna be better than the last clean and jerk that I posted at this meet, 3 months ago?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So for everybody watching this deep in, um, that means Chase is caring about his 1 RMs and his performance on a specific day,
Hmm.
4 or 5 months out in the future.
Yep.
So you don't mind if there's a day where it's a bad day, and you don't mind if there are some up days and down days, and the normal course of
Exactly.
training. Um, whereas for different people, it's gonna be very different. So for
Yep.
me, like my primary win condition is training is allowing me to practice without feeling fucked up at practice. That's
Hmm.
win condition number one. For me. Whereas someone else, it may be I just want to press 225 once. I don't care what day it's on. I don't care when it's going to happen. I don't need a peak. I don't need a, or excuse me, I don't need a meet. And then for some people, it may just be stronger on an average day. You'll
Yep.
get plenty of people who don't care about very specific PRs. They'll just kind of want to be stronger all the time. You know,
Hmm.
um, what would you say, kind of your average audience, um, for everybody watching this? Yeah, I'm still here. We all got 5 people in here. Chase, what would you say kind of is your average? Like, if you had to kind of distill the thoughts of your average gym goer in,
Hmm.
in OKC, what would you say it is?
It'd be, am I walking in, with pain, and then am I leaving less painful?
Okay.
That'd be a big one. And another one probably be still another is the weight on the bar, because again, like I still deal with like a bunch of novices, a little bit some intermediates, so where they can see the weight on the bar just kind of continuously jump almost
Hmm.
every single time that they're in the gym. So that they're wanting to chase that PR. And again, probably the way I coach too will kind of lead that into them a little
Yeah.
bit. But yeah, those are probably the two big things. Is like I already have someone who comes in with an injury or
Would you
just
say
some.
most people come in with some sort of fucked up something?
A lot of them, yeah. It's whether it's
Like 50-50?
I'd say like 65-35,
Okay,
somewhere
wow,
around there.
that's high.
Yeah.
That's high.
Oh yeah, because I mean, you got to think like so what it's our average age is like 48, 47. By that
Okay,
time someone usually has
yeah,
something fucked up, right?
yeah.
It's a shoulder, it's a wrist, it's an elbow, it's a hip, it's a knee, it's one of the joints. I mean, granted, it's not like they have some severe condition or like they did
Hmm.
something very fucked up, but something is just constantly nagging and they can't take it anymore. They want it to stop. They're on a bunch of medication and they're tired of it because the medication isn't doing anything.
Yeah. So then you have to remember it's just like when you're establishing your own, or when you're talking about fitness, as basically everybody does with your wife, with your mom, with your neighbor, with your friends in your office, they're just going to be in a totally different brain space.
Hmm.
Absolutely, it's going to be so foreign that it's not even, it's like if we plucked someone out of like the 13th century, and then they're just like they love the king, and then we're like, oh, we have democracy here, it's like a totally different system, they would just be like revolt, they'd be aghast, they'd be like, I can't
Yeah,
even conceptualize how fucked up this is.
exactly.
Just as much as if we took Chase back to feudal Russia in the 11th century. um Man, okay. Yeah, and I would say the last thing before we just wrap up and finish up with the videos we have, I would say you should always just be asking, is your programming actually leading you to the right area? You know,
Yeah.
because sometimes you can be spinning your wheels and then not really understand why, and oftentimes it's just a direction thing. And any other tidbits before we do videos, Chase?
I say that, and then what I see a lot of times too is like people will kind of goal hop a lot. So like, oh, I've gotten
Oh
stronger
yeah.
now. I want to lose weight. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really strong enough. Like, keep pushing it. Like, you're
Right.
gonna see more muscle mass. So then, whenever you do lose some weight, you actually will have something more to prove, right? Let's
Right.
handle. Let's
Yeah.
handle
Like there's
one.
nothing under there.
Yeah, exactly. Let's handle one big
Okay.
thing at a time, and then look, because we're gonna have some time here. We'll be fine.
Right.
Strength happens fairly quickly, so we'll be fine.
What is the how often does that actually happen sort of within your gym environments, or people being like, all right, you
Here
know,
it's kind
time
of
to
been a
stop
little
being
bit of
fat
a
as hell.
it's been an uptick a little bit because Phoebe's been dieting a lot and I've kind of dieted a little bit through just competitions and stuff like that. So people are just like, oh,
Hmm.
y'all actually know how to diet. We're like, yeah, like we're not registered dietitians, but we have some helpful tips and tricks and stuff like that. We'll help you as best we
Hmm.
can. If
Right.
not, we can get you someone who actually knows their shit. They're like, oh, sweet, let's go diet. But they don't understand like what the main goal is. It's just like, no, you want to be stronger so that way you have
Hmm.
muscle mass to show, the aesthetic reasons, stuff like that.
Yeah, triage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, triage basically. Okay, this is our boy Mayfield. Do you remember this guy, Chase?
Yep, yep,
Okay. Yeah, he was squatting a bunch. Oh, he got some squat shoes. Nice. Great. Good job, dude. Yeah, so before Mayfield, he was doing the foamy running shoes.
yeah.
I think we got a squat video from him too, so I'm curious to see this. This is the first time we've seen him press.
Some good old standing military press.
He's in the military. He's a tier one operator defending our freedom. Um, okay. Yeah, how would you coach this guy? So he's doing things intentionally with his head. How would you get him to stop
Yep.
fucking with his head, Chase?
So there's several different ways. So you can use the good old classic, yep, Klokov, where you just like throw your
Hmm.
fist out there,
Yeah.
and it's a good tactile cue of like, oh, I can't physically touch this person's arm or whatever the hell you're putting in front of them. So now
Hmm.
they have to realize like, oh, my head isn't finishing the shrug. It's just my traps reaching up towards the ceiling. Um, and I'm not going to use this old bullshit cue of kind of push my head through the window or anything like that. Another good one would be for on the more verbal side is just make your biceps align to your ears type stuff.
Yeah, don't move your head. So basically, these people that are thinking that like to finish, the bar has to go behind them, and it's easier for their head to go forward because that's where the
Hmm.
them is stored. Them is stored in their head. So they're like, yes, perfect. I
Hmm.
shoved my head forward. Um, so that the Klokov fist in front of the face is great, and then the referencing another target. So it's like you bring your biceps to your ears, you don't move your head forward. Those are
Hmm.
perfect. Chase, thoughts on G Lock's impending death?
Dude, I don't know how his gut biome is gonna handle all this fucking the lactose, all the goat milk, all the weird moldy cheese that he's eating. I mean, I feel for him.
Yeah, it's 50% from dairy. Am I gonna die? I don't know, man. I think whole milk warriors tend to stay alive. I think,
Nah, he'll probably be fine, man. He'll
yeah.
be fine.
Yeah, if you're gonna die, it's gonna be like, you're 52 with an erection, heart attack, dead. You know, it's not gonna be. It's gonna be climactic. Um, can you see this girl's overhead press in the background, Chase?
Oh wow, she's actually kind of using the hip motion a little bit,
She's doing a
but
little
then
incidental hips.
yeah, she's kind of fucking up the
Yeah,
lockout though. But
no lockout. That's fine. All right, lady. Okay, so let's get Mayfield's other video. Oh, we have a video of him deadlifting. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm excited to see because this guy, we've seen him for quite some time. He's sent in a few rounds of videos. Every time he lifts, everything is at like 7 reps in reserve.
yeah, it's pretty light.
Yeah, he weighs like he. How much do you think this guy weighs? He's a big boy.
Oh, dude, he's probably like 280,
Okay,
somewhere
you
around
think?
there.
Yeah, so Mayfield here is 280. We could easily put an extra 150 pounds on his squat and deadlift, and I don't think the bar speed would change.
Hmm.
Um, it's always funny to see these. All right, thoughts, Chase. That
You
was
know,
rep 5.
I thought these were going to be way worse than what they were, but I mean, for the most part, like if we were to change his stance, so like if as we see him pulling, his toes are
Okay.
just straight ahead. So I want him more in like in a V type configuration where he's going to make
Okay,
more
here we go.
space with his toe angles. Yep, and that's going to
Hmm.
help him shove out his thighs, make some more room in his belly to help kind of just this cascading waterfall of shit that's going up upstream, um, kind of get itself into a better
Question:
situation here. So
do you want the heels where they are, toes out more, or do you want the heels in more and toes where they are? Do you want? Do you want?
I would
How would
try
you?
just where the heels are right now and then
Hmm.
toes out wider.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, then yeah, we're gonna have to bring the heels in a little bit more. So that
Okay, and the
way,
goal of that is to make more belly room.
well, yeah, it's just to really artificially shorten the legs, right? So
Okay.
now the more angle that I put on his toes, the more rotation that the femur has. We've shortened it because of that angle.
Hmm.
That way, he can just put his ass in a good position. He can fit his stomach down in there to where he can set his back, and now he's more rigid segment to push.
Yeah, because when he drops the bar, and then so it's like he'll start getting ready here, and the shin angle super inclined. The bar is
Hmm.
very far forward, and then he'll tuck it back a little bit. He'll get it back a little bit before the pull. I would honestly just think about having him. I would say just pretend it's a stiff legged deadlift. Pretend it's an RDL. Because he's so far forward that you just
Hmm.
gotta whip it in the other direction, and then chances are he'll meet you in the middle. Um, but yeah, this still looked light as shit, man.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on, dude. Okay, we got 2 from Dylan. Do you want to see Dylan in the green shirt or the gray shirt first? You got to pick, Chase.
I'm wearing green, so let's go green.
You're going green? All right. Well, this isn't an eco-friendly. This is an environmentalist podcast now, everybody. All right, this is green, Dylan. I think this is 135, 55, 65 on the bar. Okay. Interesting.
Just some classic. He's never squatted before squats. I mean, he
There's a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, for sure.
he's actually doing a somewhat
Yeah.
good job of like
Yeah.
maintaining the tightness in his back. You know, actually
Mm-hmm.
hitting depth and shit like that, shoving at his knees. But I would fix his eye position so that way it helps him drive his hips a little bit more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling he's just staring at himself in the mirror, just trying to look at
Yes.
what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Um, I think his stance looks pretty good. Grip seems fine. Um, Maybe we could bring it in just a little bit tighter, but
Mm-hmm.
it's sitting in a nice position on his back, right below the spine of the scapula. Yeah, this is a low bar squat, but he just has the high bar mechanics of it.
How are you feeling about depth?
I like it. I don't see an issue with this.
Okay, yeah. So no issue on depth, but we want this to be achieved by more torso angle. Is that the goal?
Exactly. So
Okay.
I want his hip angle to be a little bit more closed and his
Okay.
knee angle to be a little bit more open.
Right. So leaning over more, and then
Yep.
for sure, anybody squatting in front of the mirror. Anytime if I'm in a public gym and I'm squatting in front of a mirror, my eyes fucking drift up there too. We look at moving things as humans, and there's a moving thing in front of you.
Hmm.
You're going to stare at it. Um, So, whenever people are squatting in front of a mirror and they're wearing a hat, I'll tell them, cover yourself with the hat. You should not see yourself. There should be, the brim of the hat in front of you. Almost all of this is coming from eye gaze for sure. Okay. Now let's look at gray shirt Dylan. And this is no hat, Chase.
What if
And
this is like his evil twin to where like he really fucks up this squat?
it could be. Yeah, so this is gray shirt Dylan. I don't think there may not be a mirror in front of here either. We'll see. Okay, he's pausing. Yeah, this is the classical high bar, low bar. It seems like his head is aimed slightly more down this time, Chase.
Yeah, this seems like he kind of like
Okay.
reviewed some stuff or like either
Mm-hmm.
went back and saw some shit on the video. But I don't understand the pause of why,
Just to
or why he's
confirm.
implementing that. I guess
Yeah.
so.
I mean, the big thing I'm seeing is, the head. He's still he's thinking high bar, low bar, and then we're not seeing too much hip drive. How would you help this poor gentleman, Gray Dylan, achieve hip drive?
Try to tuck his chin down a little bit more and then physically think about, yep, the first thing out of the bottom is his ass driving straight up out of it.
Okay. Are any of these reps? Did you see any of these with hip drive at all? They're almost all just
There's a teensy bit of
tiniest
it
bit.
coming out, but like it's not consistent through like halfway through the motion. So
Mm-hmm.
one, like if let's just say like if this guy were to bounce, he would still be carried up a little bit with his hips out of the bottom.
Yeah.
But since he's yanked that bounce out of the equation by the pause, he's still forced to drive his hips, but again, it's so light to where he can get away with it with his chest. Put a little bit more weight on him, he's gonna have to lean over more.
Yeah, that's when trial by fire that'll start making sense. Okay, we got our boy Peter here. There's actually two Peters. There's a Peter in the mirror, and then the Peter right next to him. There's three. He has mirrors on all sides. He's in a corner. Okay. He does not have squatting shoes on. He has some sort of minimalist shoe, and he's walked out of the safeties.
He's a dangerous man.
He's a dangerous man. There's three of him in this picture. He's so dangerous. I really dislike when gyms try to put squat racks in like the mirror room cave of mirrors.
Yeah.
I dislike this. The fun house.
Well, they don't understand why.
don't
Like
understand.
it's just like, oh, you don't have a coach. Well, you can see yourself lift.
Yes, from every angle.
Yeah, exactly.
And also they have these short safeties too. Look at how fucking short these safeties are, Chase.
Yeah, those aren't doing shit.
They're not doing shit. This looks like a cup holder, or no, he's sitting that on the safety. Okay, all right. So we have Peter here. Peter's doing a bunch of shit, Chase.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? What's your triage here?
I would like his balance to be a little bit more fixed. So as we see this, like he's just gonna continuously kind of slide into his knees here.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not violent or anything like that, like what we've seen in the past with some people, but it's enough to where it's disrupting balance. So he is not over the midfoot there. So like you can kind of see a little bit of air underneath his heels. This is not a problem right now, but as we get heavier, he's not going to balance the system, and he's going to go head first into the floor, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Right.
So I want him to think about getting back into his hips, kind of loading his heels to help rebalance himself over the midfoot.
Yeah, this gentleman, I'm going to try to pause this at a frame of depth. This guy, short torso, shit build for squatting. I'm sorry, Peter, but it's going to be rough. Things you can do to help dissipate this: widen the stance, shove the toes out more, and get some squatting shoes. It's interesting when you see people with like really flat feet wearing minimalist shoes, because it just looks like they have these sort of like duck feet. It's just like straight, and then it just shoots out right at the bottom.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you doing? Yeah, so I would say, what's the highest heeled shoe in the game? Is it still the Reebok Legacy, or does anybody else have more of a high heel?
I don't know, but I want to say it's Legacy, but I haven't really been keeping tabs on that.
Okay, yeah, so get some Reebok Legacies, put a deck of cards in the back, just fucking, get a big tilt going on. Move the stance out 2 inches on each side, shove your knees out, and then your life will be a lot easier. I think he's sliding into his knees because he has so much kind of leg to deal with. It's
so much femur.
Exactly. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
just not super flat. The narrow stance head up is not flattering for you.
No.
So, widen it out, look down. You're going to have to lean over still, but you want to think like my legs are wide and I'm sitting down in between my legs.
Hmm.
And this gym is interesting, but possibly find a new one, or don't squat in the cave of mirrors. Okay, we got.
I think you're still muted.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know if
Okay,
I was
good.
going to cough again, so I was like, I'm going to give this another second. All right, we got Peter deadlifting again. Do you think this is some sort of Northern European?
It looks like it a little bit.
This looks like something that they would do. Like everything is slightly sort of off-brand. Like I've never seen these plates before. The rack looks a little weird.
No.
All right, looking at himself. This is actually a pretty decent setup. I was
Yeah, it
surprised by
wasn't
that.
bad.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have a pretty easy time fixing the deadlift. Anything you're seeing here that you really want to pick on, Chase?
Ah, man, just it's still solidifying the hip position.
Right.
Which I mean, hell, Peter kind of knows that that's an issue by just him glancing over. But
Mm-hmm.
I just like to think of it as this: is that at the start. Oh,
Hey,
what
there
the
it is.
fuck, Peter? Man,
Come on,
it's so
Peters.
light.
You had it going good.
But at the start, you should feel your hamstrings kind of tighten up.
Mm-hmm.
So just put a little bit more tension on them by raising up the butt. Another good way to kind of look at this, if you're filming, is we can kind of see his kneecap slide a little bit forward of his elbow. At that position right there, there's too much knee bend. I want his knees to straighten up a little bit more to where his knee is
Mm-hmm.
right in line with his elbow, and that's going to put him in a good position there.
Yeah, I would say 100% do not deadlift in squat shoes or tall squat shoes because
Yeah.
his back is like it's parallel to the floor, half an
Hmm.
inch off the floor. So if we give him an extra inch of heel height, it's going to be even more annoying. So keep deadlifting in your flats.
Hmm.
The bracing seems a little bit funky. It's like he's holding the brace in his face, kind of wincing
Yeah.
a little bit. That's kind of something that comes with maturity. As you're pulling 100, 150 kilos, you'll kind of figure that out more. Yeah, hip height for sure. I think this is a little. Is this a little German flag maybe on the side? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think this is bright red. Is that red,
I
yellow, and
can't tell.
black?
It's super low res, but I think it is red, yellow, black. I'm not sure. So you want hips to be higher.
Hmm.
Do you want the setup distance changed, or do you think the setup distance is fine?
It may help him with getting the back into a little bit of a more favorable position to where he's not so horizontal. If we kind of bring in his heels a little bit, so it's
Okay.
like the reverse of what that one
Mayfield.
dude had. Yeah, Mayfield
Okay.
had. And again,
Yeah.
it's just
Why don't you get
because of
one
his
more?
legs are just so goddamn long that we have to shorten it some way somehow.
Yeah, this angle is making it look even worse too.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
just the longest legs in the game. All right, last one. This guy is named Ryu84. Again, sick name. He says he has a terrible tennis elbow in his left arm, and I don't think he's playing tennis. So let's figure out what's going on. Ay caramba. Okay, this is the left arm for reference, everyone. Left, right,
Hmm.
left, right. And it seems like he's squatting, is that a 10?
I think it is.
255, 60. He's squatting 270, I think, somewhere in the ballpark of 270. All right, Chase, help Ryu 84 out. What's he gonna do?
Man,
Yeah,
he needs.
yeah.
Nah, just like it's just this guy just has
Um,
some really tight shoulders and shit like that. So, and this is fairly typical whenever we have someone who has complaining of like some elbow tendonitis. Is that 9 times out of 10 it's their squat grip.
mhm.
So he is going to fall into those 9 people. He needs to fix his grip to where he can hold it into a position that is low bar, but yet is not allowing him to crank and lead out of the bottom with his elbows.
So this is about as deep as he gets, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just fast forward so we can see how fucked up this grip is. Yeah, whenever I see people squatting like this, when this comes up, this sort of picture right here, I'm like, oof, that's rough, dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough for everybody involved. This guy's hiding his head in shame. He doesn't want to be on the video. Nobody wants to see this. Yeah, so when you look at his stance from back here, it doesn't actually look too narrow. But then whenever we go back to like this and I see this bottom position, I'm like, yeah, he could probably afford a little bit of a wider stance to help him get to depth. What
I
would you
think
play
it's
with the
this.
stance here?
No, I think it's he's getting so bent over in the
He's like,
bottom
yeah.
that his ass is shooting back and his knees are collapsing because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he needs the one again, fix the bar position. He probably just needs to high bar for a
He
little
just
bit
needs to high bar, yeah.
and then think about shoving out his thighs as he stands back up.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's just take the bottom. I'll try to find rep one again. So bottom position of rep. Oh, let's go back here. Bottom position of rep one right there. Yeah, the knees are collapsing in. We can see his feet kind of rolling in like this, tilting through. Yeah, this is the one when he's the most vertical. He hasn't really leaned over a tremendous amount, but we are seeing that cave in. I would honestly take this down to maybe 185 or so.
Yeah.
I think 185 to 205 is probably a fine starting point for this. And then you want to think, knees out to the side. I have to push my knees out of the way, pull my knees out of the way, however you want to think about it. And would you just go straight to high bar, or would you try to salvage this at all?
I would try to, but I don't think so, man.
I
Like
don't think it's going to work.
no, I don't
Yeah.
either. So just go to high bar.
Yeah, just go to high bar, and then when we are doing high bar, we want to think chest really far out, shoulders up and back. I almost want to think like I'm trying to carry the bar with I always think about carrying the bar with this part of my shoulders. I'm trying to pull them back so far. That way, you get a big knot of trap for the bar to sit on.
Yeah, basically like it's like this bottom position, but just a little bit more up more with your chest. That's all it is.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't change anything below like here.
Yeah.
You get more thoracic extension. This changes, but the rest of it's fine. Yeah. So tennis elbow on the left arm. It's gonna take a while for that tennis elbow to kind of work itself out. How
Yep.
long once people, let's say someone fucks their squat grip up, they're Ryu 84 now. How long do you oftentimes see that sort of linger even after they fix the squat grip?
Oh man, we had a guy who had it pretty bad. Kind of similar thing where just fucking is made out of granite, just cannot bend whatsoever. It took him about like 3 weeks.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, because that's when I get these people in person for like for a one-off, it's kind of odd. Almost all of my one-off random single sessions, they'll be like, yeah, my elbows hurt all the time. Squat grip looks like this, or the squat grip looks like this. They do this, or they do this. One of the two.
Yep.
Even if you fix the technical issue on the spot, that tissue is still really sensitive, and it will remain sensitive for quite some time. Yeah, on the order of weeks. For sure.
Yep.
Let's see. We did Peter. We did Dylan. We did Mayfield. Yeah, that's it, Chase. Anything else you wanna talk about?
I ain't got none.
That's it, dude. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. What do you want to talk about next week, Chase?
Don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know.
All right.
You do really good about like coming up with shit. I'm just here, man.
Man, you gotta just next time you're anybody at your gym asks anything profoundly stupid, message the group chat immediately. Just be like, hold on 1 second. Oh, thank you, G-Lock. Yeah, thanks for coming. Doubly thanks for G-Lock. Nobody else gets a double thanks. Only him. All right, everybody. See you next week.